Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Laura Myers, President and Chief Executive Officer of Planned Parenthood of Metropolitan Washington, D.C. I wish we were here under better circumstances, but I want to thank our champions, Mayor Bowser, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, and Council members Henderson and Pinto for being with us. As President Biden said, it is a sad day in this country. 6 justices overturned 50 years of legal precedent with a devastating decision that strips away a federal protection to legal abortion, affecting 36 million women and others who can become pregnant in 26 states, either banning, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that, like this? Okay, sorry. Affecting 36 million women and others who can get pregnant in the 26 states that have already banned abortion or are poised to do so. They have determined that those people do not need a constitutional right to determine their own futures, their own destinies, their own bodies. We know that without reproductive freedom, women cannot fully participate in society. And I want to say, how dare they say me, my daughters, our granddaughters are not full citizens with the rights and protections of men in this country. We at PPMW are here to say that we will not back down. We call on everyone hearing this message to stand with us in this terrible moment. With that, I am turning it over to an incredible champion in the district, our Mayor Bowser.
I'm Muriel Bowser, your mayor. I'm joined today by our Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. I am always standing shoulder to shoulder with Laura Myers, the President and CEO of Planned Parenthood, D.C., and with the members of the council who have joined us and who may join us during this press conference. We were here a short time ago when we heard of a draft decision. We hoped that it wouldn't become reality. We've been promised by candidates for the Supreme Court who are now members of the Supreme Court that Roe was settled law. We learned today that their decision was in fact real, and that women and girls of now and of the future will have fewer rights than our mothers. We know that this is not a view that is held by the majority of Americans. A majority of Americans believe that a woman should have autonomy over her own body, and we agree in Washington, D.C. We are a pro-choice city. Nothing has changed in Washington, D.C. Abortion remains illegal, and women and girls we know, however, are worried. We are worried because we know we are vulnerable as a jurisdiction because of our lack of statehood. But we will keep fighting. We will stand shoulder to shoulder with Planned Parenthood. And like Laura has said, we will not back down. We know how to fight to protect ourselves and to protect our citizens. But we also know that this Congress can make decisions to pass laws to keep women and our rights safe. We stand shoulder to shoulder with generations of women who fought to have control over our bodies and our futures, and we won't back down. We also heard an ominous signal from a member of the court that said, not only do you have to worry about your bodily autonomy when it comes to abortion care, but also contraception. We know that they will attack the right to privacy that has extended the right to same-sex marriage in our country. We know that we are fighting not just for the rights of women and girls, but we're fighting for our very democracy. The fight is urgent. We can do some things about that. We have the opportunity to protect the House of Representatives, to protect the Senate, and to ensure that we have people on the courts that represent our values. But even in doing that, we will lack 2 senators in Washington, D.C. who speak for us, who vote for us, and who make sure that members of the court aren't representing an ideology, but being fair and looking at the law and protecting our Constitution and our people. So we're going to do everything within our power, just like the President of the United States said, to make sure we remain a safe city for abortion care and a legal city for abortion care. With that, I want to turn, Laura, if I might, to our Congresswoman, Eleanor Holmes Norton.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, and thank you, Planned Parenthood officials, for having us here today at a momentous moment for the country, but most assuredly for the city. We are not one of the half of the country that may be able to continue with abortion services. Because we do not have statehood, we are subservient still to the House and the Senate. I am calling on Congress to immediately codify the right to an abortion in federal law. That is the very least the district needs to save this city from what will surely be an attempt by Republicans in the Congress to move first on the District of Columbia to make sure that abortions are not available for women in our city. We always have more work cut out for us than other jurisdictions, but I assure you I am up to the task. There's a lot to fight for here, and I'm ready for that fight. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Christina Henderson. I'm an at-large member of the D.C. Council. And thank you to the officials for Planned Parenthood for inviting us to be here today. We were here not just that long ago talking about the draft leak opinion. And I actually was with both of my daughters this morning when I got the news alert about what was happening. I have a 9-month-old and I have a 3-year-old. And I had to put them down and step away. Because even though we had the draft leaked opinion, I don't think anything can prepare women, or men for that matter, for what it felt like on this morning for a majority of the Supreme Court to essentially tell women of this country, you are second-class citizens. Just yesterday, you said states can't control gun rights, but today, states can control women's bodies. How illogical and how ridiculous. And so my colleagues and I, we have work to do. We have made a commitment to our residents that we will do everything in our power to work with our mayor, to work with a congresswoman to protect the right and access to safe abortions here in the district, not just for our residents, but for any American who is seeking one. And we have some bills pending before the council. I introduced legislation in March on self-managed abortions. My colleague, Brianna Doe, introduced legislation. My other colleague, Councilmember Robert White, introduced legislation as well. We have a hearing on July 14th. We have work to do before the end of this council period, and so I want for residents to know that we're going to do everything in our power to fight back. I join the Congresswoman in the call that the Congress take action, not just saying God bless America on the steps, but let's do some legislating and some laws here, because you have the right to protect, but also you have the right to protect the district. If we don't have statehood, we should not be on the chopping block. We should not be on a bargaining chip for anything going forward. And so this is going to be a day of some righteous anger, I think, out there. And for all the women, and my shirt says, everyone loves someone who has had an abortion. You may not know that they have, but they have. I hope that you check in on your strong friends today because they need it. Thank you.
All said, everybody. My name is Brooke Pinto. I am the Ward 2 council member, and I, like women and men in our city and across our country and really our world, are mad and angry because America is supposed to stand for more than this, supposed to stand for human dignity and rights. And to all of those women, I want to say two things. One, here in the District of Columbia, we are still open to legal and safe abortion thanks to our providers like Planned Parenthood and like our healthcare service workers who show up to work every day in spite of anger and changes in the laws and protections that are happening across the country. And thanks to the work we do every day in partnership with our mayor, the entire council stands together on this, and with Congresswoman Norton to make sure that it is very clear what the district's priorities are and what we will and will not accept for the rights of all of our residents. And the second thing I want to say is there is something we can do about this. We can vote, and it's not acceptable to think of this as a secondary or tertiary issue. This should be the issue that is on all of our minds in November, that is on our minds, that we demand from our elected leaders across the country that they stand up and support, because there is something we can do about this to change this, and we have to vote for candidates who are not going to allow this abuse of our dignity and human rights to continue. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Takina Wilson, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Planned Parenthood in Metropolitan Washington, D.C., and I'm a proud abortion healthcare worker. Abortion is an essential and a common healthcare need. Nearly 1 in 4 people who can become pregnant in America will have an abortion by age 45. It's common and it happens. This ruling is mostly impacting Black and brown individuals, women, trans, and non-binary folks, people earning low incomes, and people who live in rural communities where healthcare can be extremely hard to access. Planned Parenthood of Metropolitan DC is committed to providing care to all who need us. We will be here as we always have been for our patients. Over the past year, in the midst of COVID, we not only kept our doors open, we opened them wider. In 2021, we served over 19,000 patients in person, telehealth, and telephone visits. We became the second Planned Parenthood in the nation to provide direct-to-patient telemedicine abortion, available to those patients in addresses in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. This care is offered up to 8 weeks and 6 days after the start of the person's last menstrual period. We also launched our Promotores program, which trains and supports local Spanish community leaders to become health educators who work to meet the diverse needs of our Latinx community. And we will continue to seek ways to expand and to innovate. Despite the court's ruling, PPMW will not waver to help ensure every person, regardless of race, income level, or where they live, has the ability to make their own decisions about their bodies and their futures. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Alyssa Silverman, at-large council member. I really don't have much to add to my colleagues except to say that I'm here to stand in solidarity with women and men, across the country, but especially in the District of Columbia. This ruling is cruel, and it's counter to, I think, our country's principles, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for people to make decisions that are right for them and for their families. I guess I just want to say to Mayor Bowser and to Delegate Norton and my colleagues, we need to work together because certainly this ruling is a threat, I think, to women and men and families across the country, but I think it shows a particular threat to our city. And I really think we need to strategize and work together to strengthen home rule, to make sure that we preserve the rights that we have to make the best decisions for residents of our city. And that is making sure that there is access, safe access to abortion in our city, to reproductive health in our city, to making sure that people can make decisions, personal decisions about who they love or what kind of family planning decisions they decide is best for them. Those are DC values, right, Mayor Bowser? Right, Delegate Norton? Those are DC values, and I think we need to do everything we can to make sure we preserve those values. Thank you so much to the providers here at Planned Parenthood. You guys are really doing God's work, so thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dana Thomas, and I am the chair of the PPMW board. I want to amplify what Laura said. Our doors are open and will remain open, and we will never back down. Laura?
Again, thank you for being here today, and thank you to all of our champions who are seeking to do whatever we can do to protect rights to safe and legal abortion in the district. And I want to amplify that this decision absolutely runs counter to basic American values of freedom. And with that, I will say thank you.
Are you going to take questions?
Yes, I believe so.
Question here for Congresswoman Norton. Congresswoman, I know in the past, particularly with abortions for poor women, it's been put on as a rider. Could this just be put on as a rider? And I guess there's the issue of the president perhaps vetoing it, but nevertheless, could it be done that way?
Yeah, so it's true that the district can't pay for abortions for poor women. That's a way in which we are unique as well. Because the House is likely to fall to Republicans, they may not need a rider if they have the majority who want to make sure that abortion is not available in the district. Our best hope would be in the Senate. Because even if Democrats don't control the Senate, I am usually able to stop bills in the Senate, and that's what I'm looking at right now.
What message do you have for President Biden in case it got to his desk?
Say that again.
What message would you have for President Biden in case that went to his desk to veto it, much like your effort regarding President Obama and the rider?
Yeah, it would be very important if he got a bill, a single bill to his desk to veto it. I'm not even sure where he stands on abortion. I think he has made a statement that made it clear that he thought this was an abomination.
May I ask you a question of the Planned Parenthood? We've heard some strong, emotional, and powerful statements from the people here today, but the men also have a role in this to play and support. I don't see anybody else from the district government where the Attorney General, the Chairman of the Council, or the other members of the Council are men asked to join you here, and what was the answer? Maybe they're just late. I see Mary Chey has come in.
I'll say this: no one gets pregnant alone. That's self-evident. However, we had a press conference when the opinion was leaked. The chair of the council was here. Virtually everyone from the council. In fact, Council Member Charles Allen has been a champion of reproductive rights. So I don't think it's fair to say that because they're not present here today, they are not fully supportive and of one mind.
Excuse me, I didn't say that it wasn't fair. I just asked, were they invited?
Yes, of course, they were invited, as well as Attorney General Carl Racine is a terrific champion of reproductive freedom for the district as well.
So this is for Delegate Norton and also Mayor Bowser. What does this mean for D.C. trying to become a sanctuary city? Because I spoke to Councilwoman Brianna Doe this morning, and she said that one of the issues that they could have is the fact that this bill would have to go through Congress.
I think you're
What does this mean for...
You're asking about a bill that was proposed. I don't know if any of the council members want to speak to it. My understanding of it, when the councilwoman spoke about it when we were here last, was making sure that no one would be restricted from coming here for care. I can't really summarize it, but I think that
the bill would have to go through Congress before it's implemented here in the district. So I guess what are you guys going to do to ensure that that happens?
Well, it's still, I think the council member just mentioned that there's going to be hearings on the bills, and I would expect that the council would act on them very quickly, and they would go through the normal process.
And then this one's for Planned Parenthood. What happens to federal funding for Planned Parenthood now that this goes into effect?
So, as we all know, there is no federal funding for abortion in this country. That's governed by an amendment to the appropriations bill stipulating that. So no federal funds ever go to abortion. However, there is something called Title X, which is America's Family Planning Program, and those are funds that are provided to states as well as Planned Parenthood affiliates to provide family planning. That means contraception, breast exams, testicular exams, pap smears, for low-income individuals.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on that and ask one of the councilwomen who are here. There's a bill before the council right now that would require insurers to cover the full cost of abortion with no cost to the patient. Could you talk through how this bill would work and whether this is something that could get through Congress, get through any court scrutiny?
Thanks for the question, Julie. So this is legislation introduced by Councilmember White. We haven't had a hearing on it yet. It's been referred to the Committee on Business and Economic Development because it is an insurance bill. And so that bill will have to go through the regular order process. I don't think a hearing has been scheduled on that yet. But from a timing perspective, there might be some issues just in terms of when insurers have to put out their health plans. And I know that only because I have a bill on IVF that we've had similar conversations about. But more on that later as we go through the process.
May I ask Mayor Bowser as well, can you tell us anything that you're expecting this weekend? Any marches, demonstrations? Is there any additional security that you're offering for facilities like this one?
The chief has been working in close coordination with our federal partners as well to make sure that we are providing MPD support around the courthouse and other sensitive areas. And we are also, we stand ready to deal with any First Amendment demonstrations. I understand that there have been permits requested for this afternoon, and we're doing that. We also, however, want to remind people to stay safe, to listen to the officers. We are dealing with a situation, I think you know now, I think it's still ongoing on the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge. That is a very unsafe situation. And so our officers will be out to make sure that people have the ability to exercise their First Amendment rights safely.
Because D.C. has to go through the Congress, what does this mean for true legislative power to ensure legal abortions?
Well, I think that that's what we've been talking about, that we're vulnerable in a different way than the other states because the Congress can impose its will and overturn the will of the people of the District of Columbia. So this is very much an issue, of course, about our autonomy as tax-paying Americans. We already live with the indignity of a congressional rider that says how we use our own local dollars to support women on Medicaid in the district, and they are restricted from getting abortion care because of that rider, despite the fact that that's not the will of the people of the District of Columbia. So while we recognize a particular vulnerability because of our lack of statehood, we won't back down. We have experience, this woman right here has experience fighting for us and protecting us. The women who are present here have experience using the law, the bully pulpit, or whatever it takes to protect us. But we have a home rule charter that allows the Congress to impose its will on us. So we have to fight. And it's very important what the Congresswoman said, that we have to fight for the House. We haven't given up on it yet. And she will use all of her strategy, persuasion techniques in the Senate to block anything that the House tries to do to us. So we're going to keep pushing. Thank you, everybody.
Parenthood, or for you, D.C. might see an increase in demand of people coming to the city for abortions. What can the city do to expand access? Is that something the city could fund? I mean, what could we possibly expect?
Well, I will say from a Planned Parenthood perspective, we, as we said, our doors are open, and we are looking for ways to both utilize technology to be able to provide care, as well as opening up further capacity so that we can provide care to those from out of the DMV to be able to do that. I'd just like to bring up Councilmember Che, who'd like to make a brief statement, and I believe the chair of the council has just arrived.
Thank you all very much. I was delayed in getting here, but I was really keen to do so, so that I have some outlet for my own outrage. We are about to enter into decades of darkness with this court that we have. And don't be fooled. We're told, okay, it's just, abortion. Don't you believe it? The very reasoning of the case, and I spent a lot of time teaching constitutional law, means that many other liberties will be in jeopardy. And don't think that they won't be, they will be. And how callous and venal these men in the majority are, they tell women, no problem, you can just give the baby up. Can you believe that? These are Taliban judges in terms of how they treat women and women's bodies. But we can't change their minds necessarily, and they do have lifetime tenure, which is why all of the questions that you're asking now are so highly relevant. What are we going to do to try to protect ourselves to the extent that we can? And one of the things we might be able to do, and the mayor and Congresswoman Norton will be at the vanguard here, we need to get together with other jurisdictions who are of like mind and figure out all the best strategies that we can use collectively. Because, again, it's decades of darkness, of drawing back on liberties. The Supreme Court has never taken back a constitutional right. Sometimes they haven't acknowledged them or accepted them. Sometimes they have cut them back, but they have never taken them back. This crowd is dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Phil Mendelson. I'm chairman of the council. I'm not sure what I can add to what Councilmember Che just said, every word of which I agree with. I'm very concerned not just about a woman's right to choose, but what the implications are with regard to other reproductive choices and what the implications are for other civil rights, constitutional rights that we've come to appreciate as citizens of the United States of America. And we in the district are especially vulnerable because Congress can legislate, impose their will on us, and the Supreme Court has given them a green light. I guess I would just add this, and I don't know if others had said this earlier, and I apologize that I got here a little bit late, but what really strikes me among the other points, and again I agree so much with really the how do I put it, the urgency, the fervor with which you spoke, Council Member, but the hypocrisy, just the hypocrisy. I was remembering earlier today, in the 1990s, how horrible it was, those activist judges. What is the court today? And let's call them for what they are, because they're hypocrites, because they are activist judges, and they're activists beyond any degree that we saw in the 1990s when the Republicans were the ones who were complaining. And the hypocrisy about caring for life, but not for what happens with the result of this ruling today. I could go on, but it's just overwhelming, and how outrageous this is, and the hypocrisy and what the implications are, and how this means that we have to be just that much more on defense as we, I hope not, but see other of our rights being eroded over the next couple of decades.
If I can ask one more to the mayor and the delegate, I want to be clear, is there a red line for President Biden over trading abortion rights for D.C.? We've seen D.C. used as a bargaining chip before. Have you all been clear that the White House won't do that ever again, even if it's something like saving a government shutdown or whatever?
Take your mask off so I can hear you.
D.C. has been used as a bargaining chip before. Are you all clear that the Biden administration wouldn't do that again in this case, even if it's something like, keeping the government open, to not trade away D.C. rights again?
Yeah, the president's position is the same as ours, so I don't think we have that to worry about. I don't think on this one we're a bargaining chip. We already are a bargaining chip, as it turns out.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. We are not going back, and we are not backing down. Thank you for being here.